What's up, good people? Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Let me know that you can hear me by typing in the chat Justice for Dre or Day 1B. Day 1B. I know that sounds a little crazy, but we're still on day one, but this is part two, aka part B of day one. And also, I was about to mess up again. Let me go live over here on Instagram. What's going on to our Instagram people? Welcome in. And shout out to our mods. We've had a very busy day of putting the show together, trying to make everything run a little smoother. This is only our second day. Y'all know how we are around here. We're top tier. We're professionals over here. So we put it together and we improve as we go. But shout out to my moms. We got Alice, blessed child of God. We have Kimya, we got Trey Keisha, we got Precious, and I'm just gonna say Marianne and Deshaun because I'm sure I might see them a little later. So welcome everyone, and thank you to everyone letting me know that you can hear me. Again, we got Kimmy, Nicole, Deborah, His MJ, Sagittarius Lee D, and Crafting with Susie, Nicole, also, and Black QT. Thank you to everyone who let me know that you can hear me. I greatly appreciate you for that. Also, don't forget that we do have the plotline video. If you have not seen it, I'm actually going to put it in the card above when I tag this video, when I put all the thingamajigs on this video when I edit it. But I'm hitting everything but what I need to hit. Here's the link to the video that actually walks you through the entire timeline of the trial that we're covering, which is the USA versus James Timothy Norman, who unfortunately took the life of his very own nephew, Andre Montgomery Jr. And for those of you who have not been here before or are new to the channel, we are doing a reenactment of the actual trial. And the other thing about this that makes it a little more interactive is the fact that I was actually at the trial every single day of the trial. So we will be reading transcripts, but I'll also be adding in my commentary from my eyewitness account of everything that went on, including some of the shenanigans, of course. And so what we're looking at for today on today's agenda, we're still in jury selection. We've been working our way through it, though. We're getting towards, I would say we're at the middle of jury selection at this point. So this is where Judge Ross is asking the jurors qualifying questions so that they can figure out who would be a potential good juror for this particular case. And I spent hours between yesterday and today highlighting the interesting parts to move us along a little bit so it's not as repetitive as it was last night. And so we're going to move a lot quicker through that today. And I think it's very important that we stick with the jury selection because of the fact that it's going to give us a feel for who wasn't selected and why, and who was selected, and give us an idea of, how it all comes together. So tonight we're going to have some bits and pieces regarding the personal lives of the jury. And some of them could be potentially, some of them are juicy. They're just juicy for us, nosy people. But other parts may be a little triggering because it's all over the place. But they don't go in depth, really in depth on their personal life. But it's some dirt, it's some tea on some of them. And then after that, we're going to hear the attorneys are going to actually start questioning the jurors. And so we're going to start hearing more from attorney Michael Leonard, who is Tim's attorney, as well as Angie Danis, who is the lead attorney for the USA, which are the prosecutors. And they're going to be questioning the jurors regarding their viability. And then we'll also hear some of the behind the scenes conversation that Judge Ross was having with both the attorney Michael Leonard as well as Angie Danis in regards to the jurors. And I wasn't actually able to hear those conversations, so this is going to be new for me as well, because they were having these pretty much as sidebar conversations, but they were transcribed. And then also, before we move into all of that, just giving you a heads up that although I want to do this every evening until we're done with it, Monday through Friday, I will not be able to do it tomorrow because because I forgot to put on my calendar that I actually am going to see the Betty Boop play. And so tomorrow evening, we will not be here. However, we will resume on Friday evening. And on Friday, we should definitely be moving into testimony, and that should start with the Michelle Griggs, who is Andre's mom. She was the first person to testify, and so she will be on the witness stand, and you will get to hear her emotion-stirring testimony. And also, as far as the video for Friday, it is already up. So please hit that like button, hit that notification button on it, so that you, for one, it'll help the video spread further, but also that will help you remember, because YouTube will be sure to send you the notification at that point, as well as my reminders as well. Y'all know how we do. Also, our cast for tonight, we have Precious G, we have Robert, who is returning as well, and we have Margin. And Carol, who was with us last night, unfortunately experienced a fire in her complex last night after we got off live. So she was unfortunately displaced. She and her family are safe, but they were displaced. There's water and fire damage. So definitely keep her in your thoughts and prayers. And let's send her healing vibes as well. In the chat, just put your prayer emojis and your healing vibe emojis for her, as well as another situation. We have Marianne Coker, who is one of our loyal VPL members and mods. She had an unexpected loss of one of her 27-year-old relatives last night. So please send her healing thoughts and prayers as well. And these are all examples, unfortunate examples of, the ups and downs and unexpected turns of life. So that's why I would like to have as many volunteers for this particular series that we're doing as possible, so that we can keep the transcript reenactments series going for you guys, because as long as I'm able to do it, we'll keep going with it. But life happens, and we want everyone to be blessed, healed, and all of that from everything they're going through. So if you're interested in being one of our actors, aka readers, please hit me up on our VIP text community. You can text me directly and just state that you're interested, and then I will give you more information from there. And that's at 312-847-2346. You can join it also to become a part of our notification game as well, so that you'll be aware of what's happening on our platform and all of that good stuff. So with that, we are going to move into the actual reading. So I'm going to bring everyone up, bringing Precious up, and you can say hi to everyone. And
hi, everybody.
And Margin and Robert.
Hello, everybody.
All right. So where we are as of this moment, so we are now, picture this, we are back in court. Tonight, who is Precious is, well, tonight I'm Judge Ross. I'm the court. Angie Danis, the lead attorney for the U.S., will be played by Precious G. As well as she will be playing multiple jurors. Y'all know we did that last night, so she'll be playing multiple jurors again tonight, as well as Margin will be playing multiple jurors as well as assistant U.S. attorney Gwendolyn Carroll, who is basically assisting Angie Danis on the case. And then and then Robert will be playing Michael Leonard, who is Tim's attorney. And I think that's the bulk of everyone for the rest of tonight, at least. So let me pull up our right images, and we're going to get started. We start with me, so let me pull the transcripts over here. And then I'm going to mute some of, I'm going to mute, I think we should be fine now. Okay. All right, so I am starting here. Okay, so we are again, day 1. This is mid-morning at this point. We have Judge Ross, who is speaking. And hold on, just want to enlarge this for my weary eyes. There we go. So Judge Ross says, okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? So at this point, he has been doing what we did last night. You know how we were going from person to person. He was going from juror to juror, section to section, around the court. He's asking if anyone will have any issues being fair and impartial juror with this trial based on these certain scenarios. So now he was asking about people who had any relation to law enforcement and if that would be an issue. So now we moved on. He's saying, okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? I want to ask about experiences that you may have had with law enforcement. I'm sorry, this is still law enforcement. Most everyone and everybody in their lifetime has had some experience with law enforcement officers, either good or bad, whether it is responding to the scene of a car accident or some other situation, or perhaps having been arrested or some other circumstances. My question of you is, to the extent that anybody has such a good experience or such a bad experience that would affect your ability to listen to the testimony of law enforcement officers and be fair and impartial. So again, my question is, are there any such good or bad experiences with law enforcement officers that could affect your ability to be fair or an impartial juror in this case? So I'm going to start here in the jury box. Anybody with either such a good or bad experience with law enforcement that it would affect their ability to be a fair and impartial juror? I see no hands. Let's go over here to the pews to my left. Anybody with either such a good or bad experience that could affect the ability to be a fair and impartial juror? I see no hands. So then I'm jumping down for my readers. Page 77, line 3. Excuse me. I want to ask, has anyone been a witness in a case, actually come in and testify under oath, either in a civil or criminal case? So let me start here in the jury box. Anybody actually been a witness in a case? I see no hands. The pews to my left, anybody actually been a witness in a case? A couple of hands, yes. And that's Miss Schuchart, margin.
Oh, sorry. Oh, juror number 42, Schuchart.
Yes, ma'am.
I haven't been a witness yet. I'm scheduled to be a witness on March 14th.
And is that in a criminal case or a civil case?
Criminal.
Is that in St. Louis? Where is it?
Iron County.
Okay, and let me ask you, what is your involvement?
It's a forcible, can we say that word?
Just get our
It's a forcible R case.
Okay, and you are a witness in the case?
Yes.
Have you already given disposition? I know you have been interviewed, certainly, by law enforcement officers. Is that correct?
I haven't given a deposition.
Okay, anything about that experience that could affect your ability to be fair and impartial in this case?
No, sir.
So the case is set for trial in March, you believe?
It is, yes.
Again, anything about your role in the case with law enforcement, with the legal system, the fact that you are going to be a witness in the case, anything about that that could affect your ability to be a fair juror?
No, sir.
So again, you can set all of that aside?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know who is calling you as a witness? Is it the prosecution or the defense?
State prosecution.
Okay. And again, your role in that capacity, anything about that that would affect your ability to be fair in this case?
No.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Shurkart. And then it is Miss Bonnie. Yes, ma'am.
A witness in a domestic assault case in Tennessee, probably 25 or 30 years ago.
Anything about your involvement in that case that would affect your ability to be a fair juror in this case?
No, sir.
You know what it is like being a witness?
I do.
And again, anything about that that would affect your ability to be fair in this case?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else in the pews to my left? And then I jump down. We're jumping down to page 80, line 8. Thank you very much. Again, anybody else in the pews to my left, in the middle? Yes, ma'am. Miss White?
Do you want me to do that?
Yes.
Carmen White, juror 23. I was actually the subject of a civil case that was in San Antonio, Texas in 2011.
Okay, you were a party in the case?
Yes, sir.
Okay, anything about that experience that would affect your ability to be fair in this case?
No, sir.
Did you wind up testifying in the case?
I did.
You having to be a witness, being a party in the case, involvement in the legal system, anything about those experiences that would affect your ability to be fair and impartial juror in this case?
No, sir.
So again, you can set all of that aside just to listen to the evidence, weigh it fairly and impartially?
Yes, sir.
This was a case involving an employer?
No, I had an apartment fire. My dryer caught on fire. And the insurance company of my complex sued me for negligence because they knew I had renter's insurance.
Okay, well, that's unfortunate.
Yes.
Okay, again, anything about that experience that would affect your ability to be fair in this case?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Am I jumping down? Jumping down to page 83, line 5. 83, line 5.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Have I missed anybody who has been a witness in the case? Let me ask if anyone has been a victim of a crime. When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about a victim of a burglary, robbery, or something more serious themselves, or a close family member or friend. So if I can just see hands in the jury box, and I want to go through and make sure I have identified everybody. It is Miss Hall, is that correct? And Miss Schleckinger and Miss Drummer. And then in the next row, you don't need to keep your hands up once I have identified you. In the next row, it is Miss Topowski. And I may not.
You are fine.
Okay. Did I jump down more? Hold on, y'all.
Okay.
I think I jumped down more.
All right, where are we at now?
Hold on. Okay, yes. I jumped down to page 86, line 13. Oh, I was jumping. Oh, I was highlighting and jumping. Like, okay. So anything I skipped was repetitive.
Okay. So am I going to be this next juror then
Yeah, you
Jones?
can be the next
Okay.
one.
The
But
next
I
one.
think it's starting with me. So
Okay.
86, line 13.
Line
Again,
13.
I just want to ask and make sure anybody themselves or close family member or friend who has been a victim of the crime that they can set aside, listen to the evidence in this case and weigh it fairly and impartially. If you cannot do that, I need you to raise your hand, and I see no hands. The opposite of that is anybody themselves or a close family member or friend who has been a defendant, who has been charged with or convicted of a crime. And again, I understand it is uncomfortable asking people about this, but I need to know that. And so I'm going to start here in the jury box. Anybody themselves or a close family member or friend who has been charged with or convicted of a crime. And so for those of you who may be wondering, why is he asking these people this personal information in a crowd of at least 70 people are watching this when you count the court staff in addition to the 58 jurors, I think it was, or potential. It's because these things could weigh on a person's way of judging as a juror. In addition, if they lie or omit under oath, Tim could potentially use this information later and say, Miss White, her husband was convicted of, drug trafficking, and she didn't disclose that. So if he found that out, he could actually use that to say that his trial wasn't fair in some way, that the jury wasn't fair. So that's why Judge Ross is very adamant about finding these things out, but also like asking these, follow-up questions to be like, are you sure? And what about this? And can you be fair and, impartial? Because this is also going on record for when Tim tries to appeal, and he's going to try to use this stuff against the courts. And they're gonna be like, this person said they wouldn't, this person said they da-da-da, or they already disclosed that, we knew about it, it's here in the court records, that sort of thing. So that's what all of this is about, for the most part, or in part. Okay, so I go on, Judge Ross goes on, and when I'm talking about a crime, I'm talking about something more than like a traffic offense. So yes, Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Can you tell me who it was and what it was?
My husband's nephew was convicted of a murder when he was 16.
And okay.
And my brother was of domestic felony assault.
Okay, let me ask you about both of those situations. Were you ever involved in handling of these cases? How they were processed?
No.
And anything about your knowledge of their situation that would affect your ability to be fair and impartial juror in this case?
No.
Do you believe that they were treated fairly?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the first row or second row? Yes, Miss Topowski.
Charged. Went to prison for 8 years in 2000.
And what was that for?
I don't know the exact charge, but it involved children.
Okay, and were you a witness in any way?
I was very little, but they didn't talk to me, and I didn't ask questions.
Anything about that experience that would affect your ability to be fair and impartial in juror in this case?
I don't think so.
Do you think he was treated fairly?
I think so.
Okay, I mean, if you don't know, I understand.
I don't know. I wasn't involved.
Okay, I totally understand. Anything about that would affect your ability to be fair in this case?
I don't think so.
Thank you very much. Then back row, yes, ma'am.
Juror 16, my father went to jail for selling marijuana, the devil's lettuce.
Okay, so how long was that?
At least 15 years ago.
Anything about your knowledge of that would affect your ability to be fair and impartial in this case?
No, sir.
Do you think that he was treated fairly?
As far as I know, I would think I was in middle school when it happened.
Okay, I understand. I just need to understand whether or not it could in any way affect your ability to be fair in this case. And you are telling me it would not. Is that correct?
It would not.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Martin. Anybody else in the jury box? Let me go here to the pews and to my left. Anybody themselves, close family members or friends who have been charged with or convicted of a crime. And again, I understand the sensitive nature of this, but I need to have the information. So, Miss Townsend, I'm sorry if it is Miss Peters. I apologize.
My sister-in-law.
I don't mean to scare you there. I jumped ahead.
My sister-in-law, her son is serving jail time now, and I believe it's for life. He killed his first wife.
Were you involved in this case and in the way that it proceeded?
No, I wasn't involved. I just heard it through the family.
Anything about your knowledge of that, your relationship, that would affect your ability to be a fair juror in this case?
No.
And do you think he was treated fairly?
I believe so. I mean,
okay, I understand you may not know.
I understand. Oh, sorry. I believe so. I mean,
you jump back up. I
sorry.
understand you may not know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And the second row, she got cut off, y'all. That's why we doing that.
Sorry.
No, I'm saying that's in the script. You got cut off. And the second row, anyone in the third row, yes, ma'am. And moderators here on the backstage, y'all can put the comments on the screen. I don't know if you guys are holding off because of us or anything.
Number 41, my aunt was convicted of sex and drugs. She was fast.
And Miss Beck, how long ago was that?
Probably about 15 years ago.
Anything about your knowledge of her situation or her that would affect your ability to be fair in this case?
No, sir.
Okay, and thank you very much. Anybody else in the third row? Then I'm gonna jump down to line 8, my readers, page 91, line 8. Okay, I see no hands in the middle pews. The pews to my right, anybody themselves or a close family member or friend who has been charged with or convicted of a crime. The first row, the second row, and the third. Yes, ma'am?
Number 50, Jessica Falwell.
Yes, ma'am.
My father is presently in prison here in Missouri.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your first part.
My father is currently incarcerated in Missouri for owning a firearm as a felon. He's not really in my life. I'm not involved in any way.
And then I'm breaking script for a second. So all of our viewers, keep in mind, these things are very important. So we have someone with a father who has a background from drug dealing. You know, he's been incarcerated because of it. We got firearms. All of these things relate to things that happen amongst the people during who are involved in this case as well. So they're trying. These are the people, and put in the chat as we're going through each well, I'll wait probably to the end, but put a 1 in the chat if you think the person is being kept, meaning they're gonna keep them as a juror, or 2 in the chat if you think they gone. So right now we have Miss Falwell, whose father was convicted as a felon for owning firearms. So we know there's more to the story with this one. But okay, so continuing on as Judge Ross. So there is nothing about that would affect your ability to be a fair juror in this case?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. And then is it Miss McLeod? Yes, ma'am?
That's me. Oh, my son was when he was 17 years old. It was 11 years ago.
And what was he charged with?
Stealing.
Anything about that experience, your anything about that experience, your knowledge, or how it was handled that would affect your ability to be a fair juror in this case?
No, sir.
Do you think he was treated fairly?
Yes.
So you was happy he got convicted? No.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Again, you can listen to the evidence and weigh it fairly and impartially in this case.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So what do y'all put for her? Is this a Miss McLeod? A 1 if you think they're gonna keep her, a 2 if y'all like, she gone. Because you got to keep in mind, she may have more sympathy for someone with a criminal background.
They
Because
should get rid of her because her son. I think she's out of there because she was just being too nonchalant to me.
and then you got to keep in mind, Tim was also convicted
when he was a
as
child.
a robber, right?
Yeah.
Although we'll get to, the jury does not know that. They didn't know that.
Oh, that's right. They wasn't allowed to know that.
They wasn't allowed to know that. The only thing they figured out later on. Well, we get to that. I ain't gonna do some spoilers.
He messed his own self up. I remember that now.
He messed his own self
up.
He
messed his own self talking about Dre.
And that's the only reason they ended up finding out he had any kind of criminal record.
Yep.
Other than that, throughout the whole trial, they did not know.
He shot his own self in the foot.
Sure did. That's what narcissists get. That's what they do, though. Okay, I lost my place a little bit, but I think
skip it down to what page?
Let's go. I'm gonna go with line 16 on that same page we were just on.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. Anybody else with an answer to that question? And I see no other hands. I anticipate evidence that you will hear will include evidence about drugs and drug use. A few of you have mentioned something related to drugs. I know a lot of people are affected and have been affected in their lives by drugs. My question of you is there anyone whose personal experience as it relates to drugs is so significant that it would interfere or affect their ability to listen to the evidence, weigh it fairly and impartially as it relates to drug use that you may hear about? Now, I'm more commentary for me. This here is one of the reasons Tim tried to, once he got convicted, say that Judge Ross should not have even handled his case and the verdict should be overturned, because he said that Judge Ross didn't disclose that he has a history with people in his family. So the person wasn't ever named, but someone in his family who had some drug issues or drug problems. So Tim tried to use what they would potentially use against a juror against the judge. Of course, y'all know it didn't work. So Judge Ross goes on to say, my question again, has anybody themselves been so impacted by drugs that it would just absolutely be something that they couldn't listen to, that they would automatically reject the testimony or evidence? Anybody in that situation? And I see no hands. There is also going to be some testimony about guns. I'm going to mute everyone because I don't know where that sound's coming from. Just unmute yourself when your part comes up. There's also going to be some testimony about gun violence. Gun violence has affected many, many people. My question of you is again, just the fact that you are going to hear testimony about gun violence. Has anyone themselves been so impacted by gun violence or have such strong feelings about it that it would affect their ability to be fair and impartial, to be a fair and impartial juror in this case? I take it by your silence and lack of hands that none of you would be so impacted. And there's going to be, I anticipate, testimony about cell phone tracking. Anybody have any specialized expertise as it relates to cell phones, cell phone tracking? Anybody with any specialized expertise as it relates to that? And I see no hands. So I'll take it by your silence and the lack of hands that none of you do. There is also going to be evidence and testimony about life insurance. Anybody with any specialized expertise or knowledge about life insurance, generally or more particularly with regard to life insurance? Anybody with specialized expertise? Ms. Steckler? Go ahead.
I recently got my property and casualty life insurance business.
Okay, so do you have some background and training in insurance?
Correct.
And you are saying that you recently did this, and I'm assuming your training is fairly recent?
Yes, but my mother has owned this business for a while, and I have known about it, known about insurance for a while.
Okay, does she sell life insurance too?
Yes, among other insurance.
Okay, so you do have some knowledge and background and training. My question of you is, to the extent that you've heard my evidence and testimony about the life insurance, can you set aside what you know or you think you know about life insurance based on your decision entirely and base your decision entirely on the evidence and testimony in this case?
Yes.
So what do y'all say? Is that a 1? Are we keeping her, or she got to go? This could be helpful, but the defendant may not feel so, because she'll understand life insurance policies, and the fact that Tim should have never been able to get a life insurance policy. Okay, I'm skipping down because I didn't have any of that highlighted. Hold on, this is wild. I think I skipped quite a few pages. Here we go. Yep. We are jumping down quite a bit to, hold on, give me a second. Is this right? Page 97. And we are jumping down to line 22. So page 97, line 22. If you are selected as a juror in this case, you will be able to take notes in your notebook that we will give you with a pen that we will give you, and I'll give you instructions about that. We collect the notebooks at the end of at each recess or adjournment. So they didn't get to take them home. Those notebooks stay in the court the entire time. Ms. Bernson, the clerk, keeps those where nobody has access to them. You get the same notebook back. In any event, I want you to know that, but understand that, is there anyone who believes that they would have a problem because of their memory? Anybody have an issue with regard to that? I see no hands, and I'll take it by your silence that all of you can. I want to talk about the role of the jury. The role of the jury in this case is to decide what the facts are and apply the law to those facts. We don't assume that you know the law. The court is going to instruct you on the law. You will take an oath as a juror to apply the facts that you determine to the law that you are instructed on. So you can't say, well, I don't agree with the law, or I don't like the law. You have to follow the law as instructed by the court. I like to give people an example. If I were trying a speeding case and the speed limit on the road was 35 miles an hour, and you were the juror, and you thought you were familiar with that road, and you thought that that was wrong, it should be a higher speed limit. If you were a juror and the person was going 37 miles an hour, you would have to apply the law that is given by the court, whether you agree with it or even if you didn't. So again, what I want to ask of all of you is, can you apply the law as given by the court, as given by me, whether you agree with it or not? Is there anyone who has a problem with that? I'll share here in the jury box. I'll start here in the jury box. Anybody with a problem with that? And the pews to my left. Anybody who can't apply the law as given by the court? The pews in the middle. The pews to my right. The chairs. Anybody with a problem with that? If so, get the hell out of here. No. And I take it by your silence that all of you can follow the law as given by the court. Again, I will tell you, when you are sworn to serve as a juror in this case, and this is true in any case, a part of the oath is that you will follow the law as it is given by the court. In any criminal case, the defendant is presumed to be innocent unless they are Tim Norman. No, I'm just joking. Unless and until during your deliberations you find him guilty. What that means is he is presumed to be innocent throughout the trial of the case. Does everyone understand that? Anyone have a problem with that? And I see no hands. The presumption of innocence placed the burden of proof on the government. There are a couple of aspects as it relates to the burden of proof. First of all, the burden of proof in a criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt. You will get an instruction that will give you more information about what that means. It doesn't mean beyond all doubt. It applies to the elements of the offense that the defendant is charged with, not all facts. What I mean by this, I will tell you the whether on the date that it is alleged to have occurred, it is not an element of the offense. The government does not have the burden of proving what the whether. Oh, and I understand. Let me reread that because I was lost. What I mean by that is this. I will tell you the whether on the date that is alleged to have occurred. It is not an element of the offense. The government does not have the burden of proving what the whether was on that date, but as to each and every element of each of the offenses charged, the government has the burden of proof. It is beyond a reasonable doubt. It is the evidence that leaves you firmly convinced of the defendant's guilt, which we were. Does everyone understand what the burden of proof is? Does anybody have any problem with that? Is there anyone who would hold the government either to a higher burden of proof or a lower burden of proof? Anybody that would do that? And I see no hands. Also, as a part of the burden of proof, what that means is that the government will go first at each stage of the trial. I'm noticing, I do remember when Judge Ross was talking, I was like, you know, he talked like us. He was professional and stuff, but he talked like us. And the stenographer wrote like he was talking because some of the stuff is coming back to me. I'm like, he was talking like this, but it's kind of hard to read it. Anyway, remember, before I was just taking my notes down. Says, because again, they have the burden of going forward with the evidence, proving the case beyond a reasonable doubt. At no time does the defense have a burden of proof. They don't have to present any evidence. If the government's evidence is insufficient to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Norman is guilty, then the defense doesn't have to present any evidence. Does everyone understand that? Anybody have any problem with that? I'll take it by your silence that none of you do. Under our Constitution, a defendant has an absolute right to testify or not testify as he chooses. If he chooses not to testify, neither the government nor the court, and you can't draw any adverse inference from his not testifying. This is when he thought he wasn't going to testify, but that fool testified, and we're going to love it. Oh, I can't wait till we get to that part. Again, I want to make sure everybody understands that's the absolute right of the defendant. He can choose to testify or not testify. If he chooses not to testify, no inference of any kind can be drawn from that. And if he's foolhardy ass enough to testify, we can draw our own conclusions, which we did. Anybody have any problems with that in the jury box? Pews to my left, middle, pews to the right. Anybody have problems with that? And I'll take it by your silence and lack of hands that none of you do. I have talked about this a little bit. It is one of the roles of the jury, again, is to determine what the facts are. The way that you do that is by listening to the evidence and listening to the testimony. You as jurors will determine the credibility and believability of the witnesses. You will determine what weight and value is to be given to their testimony. All witnesses are entitled to be treated equally. You can certainly consider certain factors when you consider their credibility and believability, and you will get an instruction about that. Among other things, you can consider a witness's background and training, their intelligence and motive that may have to testify in a certain way, any bias, or meaning Slow, Terica, and Vell. Anyway, any bias or prejudice that may have. There are a number of factors that you can consider in determining a witness's credibility and believability. The one thing you can't do is just automatically reject a witness testimony. You can't reject their testimony because you believe the witness must be truthful or because you believe that the witness is untruthful. Again, you have to determine the credibility of the witnesses. Does everybody understand that? Anybody have any problems with that? I'll take it by your silence and lack of hands. None of you do. Again, I want to make sure that all the witnesses are treated equally, but you can consider a number of factors as I indicated. And again, everybody understand. Anybody have a problem with that? I take it by your silence and lack of hands. None of you do. Along those lines, again, I have indicated to you that with anticipation, I anticipate that you are going to hear from law enforcement officers. I want to make sure that everyone understands that they shouldn't give law enforcement officers undue credibility, either greater credibility or lesser credibility. Again, you can consider their background and their training and other factors, but you should not treat them just as you would any other witness. Everybody understand that? I see no hands about. Any problems? I also anticipate that you may hear testimony from people who may have prior convictions or criminal offenses. And you can certainly consider those as it relates to their truthfulness, but you can't consider them for any other purpose. Anybody understand that? Anybody have problems with that? I see no hands. So what they're saying, this is why they didn't want them to know that Tim had a prior criminal record, because had they known that, they would consider that in his untruthfulness, or that he might be prone to untruthfulness. So that's why they didn't want the jury to know that he had ever been convicted of a crime. You may hear testimony from people who were either knowing or unknowingly participants in an offense that you are going to hear about. Again, you can consider that in determining their credibility and believability. But I want to just ask, is there anyone who would automatically reject their testimony just because they may have played some role, whether it was knowingly or unknowingly, in the offenses that you're going to hear about? I guess he's talking about Terica with this. Everybody understand that? Anybody have problems with that? That's not true, because DJ Beats, he unknowingly participated. And I take it from your silence and lack of hands, none of you do. You may hear from participants in the offense who are testifying with a cooperation agreement with the government. Again, you can consider that in determining their credibility or believability, but again, you shouldn't give their testimony greater weight or lesser weight simply because they have a cooperation agreement. Again, you can consider that, but you can't, again, just automatically reject or accept it as true. Does everybody understand that? Anybody have a problem with that? I'll take it by your silence and lack of hands that none of you do. I anticipate that you're going to hear reference to the term conspiracy. I have mentioned that term already. You will hear more about what that means, and you will get an instruction on it. Just generally, it means two or more people reached an agreement or an understanding to commit an offense in this situation. That agreement or understanding does not have to be written. It doesn't have to be expressed. It can be implied. There are all kinds of aspects of it. Now, Travell should have known about the "it can be implied" piece, because he tried to say, well, Tim never asked me directly. My main question to you is, can you keep an open mind and listen to the evidence, weigh it fairly and impartially, and apply the instructions of the law as given by the court? Anybody with a problem with that? And I see no hands, so I'll take it by your silence and lack of hands that none of you do. And again, I want to emphasize to all of you that any verdict that you reach in this case, it has to be based only on the evidence and testimony you hear in this courtroom, not something you hear outside the courtroom. So again, and I read you that instructions, it is going to be very important that that during the course of the trial, not to watch the news, not to go on social media, not to be on some website that you may ordinarily be on, because I want to make sure there is no outside influence that could possibly affect your decision in this case. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that part of the role that you are going to have as a juror, knowing that would that affect anybody's ability to serve as a juror in this case? And I see no hands, and I'll assume by that all of you can do that. I'm getting close to the end of my questions. So we was all sitting there like, "Woo, Jesus, this is a lot." So he did, at this point, he was like, "I'm getting close to the end, y'all." I remember sitting there, I was like, "Jesus, that's a lot." So he says, "I'm getting close to the end of my questions, ladies and gentlemen. So please bear with me. Any punishment that may be imposed in this case is up to the court." So meaning the judge makes a decision on the conviction. The jury just decides if he's guilty or not. "It is not a matter for the jury to consider. So you shouldn't consider it in any way in determining guilt or not guilty. Guilt or not guilty. It should not be considered for the jury. I want to make sure everybody understands that. Anybody with a question about that? And I take it from your silence and lack of hands that none of you do. We all watch TV shows about courtroom proceedings, whether it's Law and Order, or different courtroom cases. I want to make sure that everybody understands that those are fictional. They may have some basis in facts, but they are fictional. There is a narrator who answers everybody's questions. In real life, it doesn't work that way. There may be questions, but I just want to make sure that you can set aside any expectations that you may have based on some TV show or blog or documentary that you have seen. It may purport to tell you about a courtroom proceeding, but again, any decision you make in this case has to be based only on the evidence, testimony in this courtroom. Anybody have any problems with that? I see no hands. Anyone have a religious, moral, or ethical belief that would in some way affect their ability to serve as a juror in this case? I have had people tell me just because of some religious, moral, or ethic belief that they just can't sit in judgment or that they can't sit as a juror. So I just want to make sure if there's anybody in the jury box with religious or moral, ethical issues that would affect their ability to serve as a juror. So he went through everybody with that. And no one, it doesn't look like it. No, nobody did, I don't think. He says, "I have to ask a lot of questions. Sometimes people are sitting there and they are thinking, I wish he would ask me this because I could give him some more important information. My question of you is there anything that I haven't asked that's on your mind that could affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror in this case? Anything that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror in this case? I take it by your silence and lack of hands that none of you have anything else to add. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I have gone for a long time. Yes, you did. I have to talk to the lawyers about this. I have agreed to give both sides up to 20 minutes to ask you some follow-up questions. I would like to do that, and I'd like for you to bear with me. I'm going to take a break for about 10 minutes, but I'd like to finish up before I send you to lunch. So that we can go through the process of selecting a jury while you are at lunch. I know that's asking you to put off going to lunch for a while, but I'm hopeful that all of you can do that. So we are going to take a short recess for about 10 minutes, let you stretch your legs, get a drink of water, use the restroom. I'm going to ask you to look at where you are seated, who you are seated next to, and we will have a list. So we'll help you with that. But I'd like to, when we bring you back, you will come back as a group. I need you to just bear with me for another minute. So if you will sit down, you will be going to take the exact same seat when you come in. This is him trying to figure it out. I remember this part. This is why it's a little choppy. He's like thinking and talking like I do with y'all. While you are on recess and during this recess and every other recess, do not discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else, including family members. Do not allow anyone to discuss this case with you. Do not be around anyone who is discussing the case with you. It is very important that you not discuss any matters that we have talked about or anything about this case as we go forward. So we are going to take a very short recess. Don't do any independent research of any kind. And then he, gives them a warning. And okay, so with that, we're gonna take a short recess. I'm gonna play the trailer for the Michelle Griggs interview. If you have not seen part 1 or 2, definitely check it out. It is in my on my channel, on this channel, on the playlist. I'll also link it below in the first pinned comment, and also in the description area, etc. So play this commercial, and then we will all be right back with you, and then we'll get into the actual jury, them asking the jury questions, so they get a little deeper. All right, so we'll see you in a minute.
Ray came back the last time from being in St. Louis. He wasn't living with Robbie at the time. He came back and he said, "Mom," he said, "if anything ever happened to me, just know that Tim did it." "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, just know Tim don't never do his own dirty work." But I got that fatal call from her about Dre, and I didn't want to answer the phone. I just didn't want to answer the phone. And then she hung up and she called right back. And then that's when she was like, "Well, the detectives was here." And my heart is already slowing down, and to the point where they want her to go down to the morgue to identify that was him. That was it. It was like, it was so surreal. Everything was just rolling around. I'm just like, not my son. Not my son. Not my son.
So the plan with this is like what we're doing now. I just want it to be a conversation, and you know, I like for us to start at the beginning and kind of work through the timeline of Dre's life, who he was, the parts that the public didn't get to know about him. And my goal with this whole project is to pay tribute to Dre and highlight his life in a way that I haven't seen it done anywhere publicly. And there are a lot of people who are still very invested in Dre and his life, how he impacted, you know, all of us in his brief time on the screen. So I just want to basically create something that is a tribute to him and will be something you and your family, as well as the public, can, you know, look to for years to come, just to celebrate Dre and his life.
I'm not doing it for no fame or fortune, because you don't really hear about how this thing happened. It's not normally in the Black community. Andre didn't have buku money. All he had was himself and his personality. And that went further than anything possibly could be out there.
So with Andre's father, how did you guys meet?
I met Dre in San Diego. I met him in San Diego through some friends. And he was funny. Andre is a spit image of his dad. Looked like him, act like him, talk like him, walk like him. Andre, he was just like his dad. Spit image. Matter of fact, after Andre was born, I was out. And the nurse was like, you know, you have to name him. I said, okay, I'll name him. I don't know, something happened and I sleep. I was out. When I woke up, they came in and said, well, here's Andre. I said, who named him? He said, I named him. Oh, okay. You are his father.
Right.
He named him Andre LaJuan Montgomery Jr. So, and he was so proud, kind of like the Lion King. He was like lifting him up extra. Just, I'm telling you, Dre is spit image of his dad. Spit image of him.
Happy birthday to you. Ja, ja, ja. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mama Henry. Happy birthday to you. Eat more chicken.
All right, we are back, and it looks like my green screen is glitching. Okay, so we are, let me get back to my notes. I'm gonna read. I see we had a couple start comments. Let's see, we got Mocha Barbie saying, I just told my dog that she can't pee until Vell get offline. The side eye I got. Ah, that's funny. Don't make the baby wait. These jurors have more charges than Tim. I know. So some of that's why I was like, I got to keep this part in. It was just too interesting. As I was reading through, I was like, I got to share this part, because otherwise y'all wouldn't even know. What do we have here? Oh, thank you to the 92% of you who have hit that like button. Where are we at with the likes? Well, we got 84 viewers. Okay, we're good, because people are in and out of this. I know it's long. But we're gonna get to the junk food piece of it. Y'all been wanting this, so I'm sticking with it. Normally, something like this, with the kind of views y'all giving us with this, I'd be like, scrapping that program. But I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it because y'all wanted this. So, and I noticed a lot of people are watching the replay and catching it later too. So I did notice that from the views from yesterday. So as long as y'all keep watching these, we're going to keep them coming. Y'all slow down on watching. Like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to catch up later. Then I'm going to look at the views and be like, maybe we're going to need to pause on this. But, okay. So back to, I didn't forget that quick. I'm looking for my regular show notes. And I'm like, wait a minute. That don't look right for some reason. Okay. So we are back in court. I'm going to bring everyone back up. Oh, now I got to fix the screen too. Hold on. We got so many people backstage. I'm trying to make sure I'm bringing the wrong people up. Here we go. That's what I want. There we go. Back to it. All right. We are back in court. It is now 11:55 a.m. and the court stood in temporary recess and now is resuming. Judge Ross is back at the bench, and he says the court will be back in session for a moment. He says, what I'm hopeful to do is exactly what I told the jurors, is to let you all have a little time to ask them some questions. So at this point, Judge Ross is speaking with the attorneys. So he's speaking with both Angie Danis and Michael Leonard. So Tim's attorney and the government. He says, so what I am hopeful to do is exactly what I told the jurors. And the jury's not here, just so everyone's clear. The jury is out on their break. So what I'm hopeful to do is exactly what I told the jurors, is to let you all have a little time to ask them some questions. And hopefully what we will do then is I'll excuse them for an hour to an hour and a half or so. And I'm probably, John, what I'm thinking I'm going to do is to have them report back on the first floor. That our jury, that's our jury assembly area. And then they will report back there after they come back from lunch. The clerk will go down after we make our strikes and bring the jurors up. The 15, which is 12 plus 3 alternates that we have, and then they will be seated. The others will be excused from downstairs. It is just more orderly, just more of an orderly process for me to get them lunch and get them back up here. So if you want to take a minute or two, go ahead. The court security has indicated that someone took a picture outside of the courtroom. That wasn't me, y'all. That was not me. I don't know whether or not that was a panel member. I believe there may have been people milling around outside before the panel came up. To the extent that you all have any influence, control over observers, I need you to tell them that they can't do that. And if they do, the court security is going to seize their phone or laptop. And if they have done something that is contrary to the law, they're going to wind up in jail or in contempt of court. They wasn't playing with us, y'all. They was not playing. And so I wasn't playing with them either. I told y'all, laptops, cell phones, all that stuff. You wasn't allowed to be doing that stuff in the hallways. The hallways, no parts of the building except for in the courtroom. If you were in the media overflow courtroom, that was the only place you could have your devices where you could be working on them, doing stuff. So I'm telling you to use your best efforts to influence everybody to make sure that they don't all right? So they don't do that, all right? Sorry, you were muted, Michael. You're muted, Leonard. Michael Leonard. Somehow on your device, you're muted. I don't know how. And I can't unmute you, unfortunately. Probably for me taking you down and pulling you back up. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Judge, would you mind when the jurors return asking them if it was any of them that put it on the YouTube?
So here's the danger in me doing that. It tells them that somebody put the photo on YouTube, and I'm a little bit concerned about telling them that. It may cause fear. It may cause a number of reactions. So I will again emphasize that they can't post anything or take pictures.
That makes sense, Your Honor.
Now, y'all, I vaguely remember this like it's coming back to me, but I can't remember the details. I feel like I might have knew at the time who did it, but I can't quite remember. If it comes to me, I'll let you. Well, I ain't gonna tell y'all. I ain't gonna tell on them. But yeah, this was a thing. It was a thing. I was like, Lord, they're gonna get us kicked out and the trial ain't even started yet. But I don't want to tell them anything.
We have seen the photos, Your Honor, and it is just the exterior of the door.
All right. Will you show counsel the photo that you have? If you want to take Mr. Norman or if he wants to take a break, it's up to you. So at that time, Tim is still in the courtroom, sitting down, hand shackled and sitting down while they're doing all this stuff. Oh, is this me again? Oh, no. Okay. And then the proceedings stood in temporary recess. So counsel, so this is Judge Ross again. Counsel, I know we have taken more than 10 minutes because we only have a couple of bathrooms for the panel to use. So I wanted to give them an opportunity to use the facilities. Let me commentate. So as far as the bathroom facilities, y'all, on each floor, there was 2 courtrooms, one on each side of the floor, and then bathrooms down like one hall to on one side of the floor. And I know the men's bathroom had maybe 2 to 3 urinals and maybe 2 stalls. I don't see the women's bathroom having any more than maybe 4 total, maybe. So, and that was on each floor. So you would literally have to take the elevator or stair. We all took the elevator, take the elevator down to the next floor to try to use that bathroom. So that it was always a little bit of a, well, we didn't have issues as far as the men's bathroom go, but that could have slowed them down. That's why. Miss Danis.
Judge, I just want to make a record that during the first part, while you were doing your voir dire, there were 2 jurors that could be potentially dozing and falling asleep a little bit. Juror number 27 and 48. We just wanted to point that out to the court.
Mr.
And just for the record, I didn't notice that. So we don't take any position.
I'm sorry. Did you or did you not notice?
I'm sorry. We did not notice that. So we do not take any position, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll certainly keep an eye on them. It was number 27 and 48.
Yes, Your Honor.
Judge, I'm sorry. We did acknowledge 27 was seen sleeping as well.
A couple of quick things so that you are aware, and I had mentioned this during the final pretrial conference, that occasionally there will be a panel member who I'll let them know that if they don't need to answer any questions, Mr. Thiessen, panel number 30, whose father was hospitalized and took a turn for the worse, I'm of mind to believe that he should be excused for cause, just given that hardship. I don't know whether anybody has any position in regards to that.
We agree, Judge.
No objection. We agree, Judge.
Okay, I just wanted you to be aware of that. Mr. Bomarito, who is right next to him, was a police officer for many, many years. I know he indicated that he could be fair, but I was concerned just about his having been a police officer for so many years.
We have no objection striking him for cause, Judge.
Okay.
We agree, Judge.
And again, I'll make a record with regard to strikes for cause at the conclusion of the voir dire. But I'm just pointing those out so that if they raise their hand, that you know that you don't need to go into much with them. So basically, don't waste our time. Keep it moving with them. They ain't staying. John, do you want to check the panel? Anything else before we bring the panel back in on behalf of the government?
No, Your Honor.
On behalf of the defendant?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So then at 12:25 p.m., the proceedings in the courtroom resume in open court. So now the jury is back in there, and now we go into Judge Ross addressing them. So he says, again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you how much we appreciate your patience and understanding as we go through this process. As I indicated, I have asked the question and want to ask you. So let me go to the government first. Miss Danis, Miss Carroll, questions of the panel?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon now, everyone. My name is Angie Danis. It's my privilege, as well as Ms. Carroll's privilege, to represent the United States of America in this honor. Or in this matter, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little hungry. I'm sure you are too. So it's very important that we hear your answers to all of these questions. Thank you so much for being so attentive this morning. Judge Ross covered 99% of the grounds that I wanted to cover with you all. So I really just have a few remaining questions. It's our goal to sit 12 jurors in that box who can base a decision on the evidence that you hear in this courtroom. We all walk in here with our own experiences. So maybe you might be a great juror for another case, but this might not be the right one. It doesn't mean that you're an unfair person, right? Really, the only question I want to address with you had to do with seeing and bearing exhibits. So I anticipate that some of the exhibits you're going to see in this matter are color based, and some have audio to them as well. So I just need to know if there's anyone here who has difficulties seeing different colors, or vision difficulties, or hearing difficulties that might make the exhibits difficult for them to see. Is there anyone to whom that might be the case? All right. I see no hands in the box. I see no hands on my left, center, or right, okay? The last thing I'm going to ask is anything you have heard from the Judge Ross in this case this morning that makes you think maybe you took a break and you thought about it and you're like, oh, I should have told them. This is your last opportunity to tell me, Mr. Leonard or Miss Rodriguez. We'll have an opportunity to ask you questions as well. Did anyone have a revelation over the break we just took? Anything you need to tell us that you think would not make you a fair, impartial juror in this case? Juror number 22.
Yes, ma'am. Montez Jones.
Okay, and what is it that you want to tell me?
It's my religious beliefs.
Okay,
It makes it to where I can't vote or serve in the government capacity or in any jury duty.
How you make it this one? But thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that, Mr. Jones. Is there anybody else who feels similar to Juror 22, or again has some kind of revelation during our 10 to 15-minute break that you would like to share with us? I
Not a
see no
revelation.
hands.
Not a whole revelation.
Thank you all so much for your patience and for your time. The government is grateful as you are Mr. Norman's counsel. Thank you very much.
Mr. Leonard, Miss Rodriguez, questions of the panel?
Yes, Judge. Thank you. As the judge said, my name is Mike Leonard, along with Gloria Rodriguez.
Mr. Leonard, I need you here at the podium if you would. Thank you. So he had to be reminded of this quite a bit. He was a pacer. He was acting like he was doing a TED talk. And he'd be like, and Judge Ross would be like, the podium is here. That's what a mic is. So people can't hear you. And the courtroom is pretty big. So that's why he's telling him this. And we'll hear this quite a bit. Just so we can hear you and speak into the mic if you can.
Yeah. Along with Ms. Rodriguez, I represent Tim Norman. I really just have some follow-ups for those who had indicated they had either watched the TV show or you heard something about the case. I know a number of you raised your hands. I hope I have your numbers right.
You indicated that you have heard some information about the case. Can you just tell me where that came from? Just from the news?
Okay. Is that today or over in the past?
It was 4 o'clock this morning.
That's pretty early.
I live far away.
I'm sorry. Was it on the radio?
Channel 2 News.
Okay. Anything other than this case is going to be heard today?
No.
Okay. And prior to that, had you been reading any news stories about it or seeing anything in print or online?
No.
Okay, thank you. The second juror, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. You indicated you had heard a little bit about the case. Can you tell us about that?
General news articles back when it originally happened.
Okay. And what papers would those be?
Online like KMOV, KSDK.
All right, KSDK. Have you been following the activities in the case?
Not too. No, I probably just read the initial reports and that was it.
And then the reports in the papers that you read gave you some online outline or details about the case?
I assume so. It's been a while since I read them, so I really couldn't repeat what I've read.
Okay. Well, any recollection about when you last read those stories about the case? Any recollection?
Years, actually.
Well, I appreciate that. Ms. Drummer, good afternoon. I think you said that you had been sort of a person who watched this show. Now, is that correct?
Yeah, I looked at it for a while and then I just stopped, but I did look at it.
Some of those shows get boring over time, right?
Yeah,
Well, now, how many sessions or episodes do you think you watched?
I looked at one season.
Okay, that's good. Did you manage to see the character, Tim Norman, on the show?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you remember anything specifically about that?
his attitude.
Ah, I remember this part. Y'all remember I told y'all about this? Go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Leonard.
So you formed some opinions or impressions about Tim from watching the show.
Yeah,
Well, okay. Did you happen to have the opportunity to see a person who was on the show back then called Andre Montgomery?
I didn't go that far.
Okay. Well, you kind of hinted to that somewhat.
I just watched one season.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Becquerel, jury number 6. I think you indicated that you had heard something about the case. What
It
was
was
the source of that?
it was
I'm,
on the
I,
news.
I was gonna say,
Huh?
let me do commentary real quick. So I believe that Miss Drummer. I believe she was lying to us, y'all. Now she says she knew about Tim's attitude, but I believe she started to realize she was saying too much, and that they realized she was a watcher of the show. So
She
she
didn't
tried
make
to
it.
back off of it, like,
It was
"Oh
too
no, I
late.
only watched one season." Like, and she was an older black lady. I could tell from her expression, her tone of voice, and everything that she like in her mind, she thinking like, "Ooh, I'm about to be on the jury for my favorite show." But then she realized from the question, like, "Oh, but no, I didn't really watch it. I mean, I only watched one season." Because that's why he's like, "Well, but you're acting like now you don't know who Andre was, but from your earlier answers, it was as if you would have known who he was." So it was that whole thing.
Yeah, you could tell it.
Yeah.
It was on the news this morning.
It was on this morning.
Yes.
Well, showing that the jury selection was going to happen.
Yeah.
All right. And now, did that influence you in any way in terms of your wanting to be in the case or not wanting to be in the case?
No.
Okay. And prior to that, had you heard or read anything in papers or online?
I remember a long time ago about it, but it's been several years ago.
Well, okay. Thank you. Mr. Stolf, I believe jury number 12. Miss Stolf, I'm sorry. Sometimes I run with the pages. How are you today?
I'm good.
You had indicated that you had heard some stuff about this case. Is that correct?
Yeah, on Channel 5 this morning. I vaguely remember like it had happened all when it happened.
Well, okay. And the information that you have gotten from outside the courthouse, from those reports, does that influence your thought process about what the facts are here?
No.
And today was just sort of the fact the case is getting underway. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
That is right.
Yes. Oh, the court. This is Judge Ross. Can I just remind everybody that you need to keep your voices up if you can, and you have to answer out loud. I think it's just getting close to lunch too.
We're all getting tired and a little hungry, Judge.
It will help us. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Hogan. Jury number 13, how are you?
Should I do this?
That's your turn.
Oh, okay. Good. Sorry. I'm good. How are you?
Well, if I may say myself, I'm pretty good. Can you tell me what your source was of information about this case?
On social media.
Okay, on social media. What type of social media?
I think I saw it on Facebook.
Now, do you remember how long ago it was?
When it first started.
My goodness, a couple of years ago?
Uh-huh.
And then did you continue to follow the case over the last couple of years?
No.
Okay. So whatever facts you heard or out of court information that you got, could you focus, if you're on the jury, that we present here?
Yeah, I don't think I really read the article. I think I skipped it.
You think you skipped it?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate that. Mr. Whitley, number 15, how are you, sir?
Good.
I think you indicated that you had heard a little bit about the case. Can you tell me about how you got that information?
Yeah, I seen the headlines a while ago, maybe more recently, probably in the Post Dispatch.
Okay, so you've seen the headlines. So have you read upon the facts? Or what
No,
the press says the facts are?
no.
Okay. Would you be able to kind of set aside whatever you saw in print and just focus on what's presented in this courtroom throughout the trial?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Number 19, Miss Peters. I'll have to swing around here. Excuse me. How are you, ma'am?
Fine. How are you doing?
Well, I think I'm doing pretty good so far. I know you indicated that you had seen information about the case. Can you tell us or tell me where you got that from?
It was off the news when it first happened. And then this morning I saw it on the news.
Well, okay. And that publicity or that coverage, were you able to put that aside and just focus on what we put forth in the courtroom?
Yes, I can.
Yes, you can. Did you get any details about the facts from your reading about the case or anything about it?
I didn't read anything, just what the news put out through.
Okay. Well, thank you. Excuse me. Number 30. And we don't need to talk. Number 41. Is that Ms. Beck?
Yes.
Can you tell me what you heard about the case, ma'am?
I read an article shortly after it first happened on social media. I believe it was on Facebook. No details or anything.
You didn't get any details on. Okay. When that first happened, when what first happened, when Andre Montgomery was,
When the headlines were about something happened and it impacted the show.
okay, I think we skipped a couple. Miss Townsend, number 20, how are you doing, ma'am?
I'm fine. And how are you, sir?
Well, I'm good, as always. Can you tell me what sort of information you got about the case or heard about the case over time?
I just seen it on the news yesterday.
Well, okay. Just the fact the case is coming up.
Coming up. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Were you a person who watched the show?
No, I never watched the show.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Duong, how are you?
How are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you. Can you tell me where you got the information was online? In the papers?
It was this morning on Fox 2, Chris Renier. Yeah.
Were they talking about the facts in the case?
No.
Okay. Just about the fact the trial was getting underway.
Yes.
Now, I know you mentioned that you watched at least some of show. Is that correct?
No, I didn't watch it. I just saw the commercials of it, and I just got to recognize his face because I really want to be a part of this jury. So I'm a lie.
Oh, so you did, huh? Well, I'm sorry. The second part?
I didn't watch the show. I just watched the commercials of the show, and I would mute it when the show came on and just watch the commercials, if that makes any sense to any of you.
No, that doesn't make any sense. A Welcome to Sweetie Pie's commercial. Is that what you watched?
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Bond, how are you?
I'm good. Fine, thank you.
Thanks. I know you had said number one, you had got some information on the case. And number two, maybe you had watched it.
Commercials.
Okay, commercials on.
Promotions on Fox 2 News this morning as well.
Well, okay. Now tell me, did you read up on the facts over the last couple of years or anything?
Facts? No, I haven't.
Were you a watcher of the show then?
No.
Okay. The ratings don't seem too good so far. We haven't found many people watching the show. Ms. Robinson, Number 35.
And Mr. Leonard did say that, y'all. We ad-libbing some here and there, but he did actually say this seemed like the ratings weren't that good.
Over here.
I'm sorry. How are you doing?
I'm good.
I know you mentioned that you heard something about the case. And I'm not sure you said if you watched it.
A couple of years ago at a family event, they were talking about it. I actually thought it was over until this morning when I watched the news and they said the jury selection was beginning. But yeah, I mean, they talked about it, so I didn't know what they were talking about. So I YouTube to see who they were talking about.
That's what
You said, oh, no. Now, I have to go to jury summons. Now, Ms. Robinson, so then when they talked about the case, did they get into the details about Tim or Andre or anything like that?
No, they didn't get into details. They were talking about I guess, the owner of the Sweetie Pie's son. And so they just basically said, what the case was about, like it was supposed to go to court, that he, that's all that was really said. You know, we were like, well, who is that? And so that's when I YouTubed.
Ms. Robinson, let me interrupt counsel. I just want to make sure you can set aside anything you may have heard about the case based on your decision solely on the evidence and testimony that you hear in this courtroom.
Yes, because they really weren't going into details. They were just saying the case should be coming up. They didn't really say specifically what it was, other than the case was about.
The lies.
But they wasn't really getting into details, and that I guess it was the son of the owner of the Sweetie Pie.
Okay, but again, you can set all of that aside, all these lies you're telling aside, just to listen to the evidence and weigh it fairly and impartially. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Liar.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Thank you, counsel.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Necker.
Yes. Oh, that's me.
You
right?
indicated you heard something about the case. Now, is that right?
That's correct. Just this morning on Channel 5 News, they've been so busy. Channel 5, 15 seconds worth.
Oh, wow. On Channel 5 News, huh?
Yeah.
They weren't given the facts about the case, were they?
Correct.
Were you a person that watched the actual show? Was you one of the few that seemed to watch the show?
No, because I make my own fried chicken. No.
I bet it's good, too.
It is.
Okay. Thank you. Is it Mr. Chow?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, as always. Can you tell me where you got your information from, please?
Yes, this morning on the news.
Sounds like a lot of people heard the same broadcast. Were you a watcher of the show?
Absolutely not. It's below my pay grade.
Okay. Number 27, Ms. McLeod.
Yes.
How are you?
Fine. And you?
As always, I'm pretty good. I think you had said number 1. Maybe you heard something about the case. I think you're a watcher of the show.
I didn't watch the show, just when it initially happened years ago.
So you're the one of the others that are not watching the show, huh? Okay.
Yes.
Just a report that it was from years ago.
Yes.
Whatever you heard back then, you can put that aside, focus on what's presented in this courthouse.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Larry March, I know you had said that you knew some, I think you said historical context of the case. I wasn't sure what that meant.
Well, I'm not sure what it means either, but I read the articles when it first came out, or I tend to read the paper a lot. And of course, I saw the news this weekend and this morning, basically. And the historical context really is the because I've used this. We have used this in discussion where unfortunately shows like this have a negative impact on society. They have a lot of times they're kind of used up in commercial value, and then producers go on to the next big thing. So that's kind of what the context was in my discussion with people I had discussed things with. You get it?
Okay, commentary. So I remember this guy. This guy reminds you of the guy. This is a black guy. This reminds you of the guy from the block who think he educated, but he really ain't, and he trying to sound intelligent, but he sounds.
I did it. Did
Very,
I get it? Did I
yeah,
get it?
you had the tone and everything because we was like, what is he talking about? But he really, it was like he got himself so far out there. He was like, ooh, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, but he just kept saying words, as you saw.
Well,
So,
now,
and Tim was sitting at his counsel table looking at her, especially when he was talking about the negative impact of those shows. And Tim was looking like, what are you saying? That was funny. That was a good part.
is that meaning it is a type of teacher or
the way of more of, typing to be more of a better society by having less and not so many adverse shows in the spectrum of cable. So it's more of a global kind of thing with my family and other people I work with.
okay. It is more junk TV, is what you are trying to say.
With all due respect, yeah.
Now, in terms of what you hear, of what your friends were talking about earlier, if the show was good or bad for society, can you put that aside? Whether it is good or bad, and focus on the facts we put forth in the courtroom.
Well, yes, sir. I mean, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Schultz, number 37. How are you, sir?
Good.
I think you said, Mr. Schultz, that you were perhaps a watcher of the show.
No, I have never watched the show. I just watched it on the news this morning and probably saw a few other times on the news, but I didn't really pay attention to it.
Okay. Well, thank you for that clarification. Number 51, Ms. McLeod.
Yes, sir.
Now, how are you?
Good. How about you?
I'm good. You had indicated, I think you are a watcher of the show.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow. We found a watcher of the show. And did you watch it all of the time?
No, not all of the time, but I am aware of it. I did watch it.
Okay. And when you think I know, there was a bunch of seasons. I think there are about 7 seasons.
I didn't watch it all. Maybe like the first 4 seasons, but...
And when you were watching back in those days, was my client, Tim Norman, on the show?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you form any opinions or impressions about Tim on the show?
No, I was just observing of his ways with his mother, but I didn't observe an opinion about him. No,
I didn't hear.
I didn't observe an opinion about him. I just saw how he acted on TV.
Okay. How he acted towards his mother.
Yes.
Okay. And you're saying you didn't like that?
No, I didn't say I didn't like it. The media was turned to his mother, helpful to his mother for the business and stuff.
Okay, I see. And then were you watching back in the days when there was a gentleman who is now deceased named Andre Montgomery when he was
Yes,
on the
sir.
show?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you see a lot more of Andre on the show?
No, not a lot, but I saw the part where he graduated when he was on the show. I did see him, so yes.
Okay. And any strong opinions or impressions you informed about Andre, other than obviously you saw him graduate from high school?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. And whatever viewing that you did of the show, that's a TV show. Can you put that aside if you are on the jury and just focus on what we present to you and the other jurors if you are a jury, if you are on the jury?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think I have covered Ms. Robinson's. Have we already talked?
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. White, number 23. We didn't talk, okay? How are you?
Good. How are you? I'm sorry.
Well, that's all right. Don't be sorry. I'm good also. No problem. You can mask or you can unmask. It is up to you. I know you had said that I think you watched some social media of the show.
Yeah, I'm a Veeple, but no, seriously, on YouTube, like clips, like the network will put you like 3 or 4 minute clips of the show. I would kind of like watch them. Sometimes I watch Vell B reacts, but sometimes I would just watch it here and there.
Okay. Was it because of the jury service coming up? Or are you
No,
talking about after?
no, this was years ago.
Okay. Any particular segments that you remember from those days?
The only one I remember is when they interviewed Tina Turner about his mother. That's it.
Okay. Miss Robbie.
Oh, oh yeah, that's her. Yes.
Okay. Whatever blurps or clips you saw, what were they?
I don't remember anything else except that.
Okay. So you can put those aside and focus on evidence and testimony in this room?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think, Mr. Pennington, I think just on clearing up, you weren't a watcher of the show. Maybe your wife was.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in anticipation of coming here today, did you and your wife have any discussions about the show? Or
No, she just informed me about the first half, and that was all, I think.
okay, excuse me. And if you had chosen to be on the jury, you would be able to not talk to your wife about the show. It sounds like
Yes.
Well, I thank you for that.
And then Judge Ross chimes in. No other questions. Is that correct, Mr. Leonard?
No, Judge. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me just ask you that all-inclusive question again. Anybody thought of anything that we haven't asked them that they want to tell us this time? Mr. Gast?
Yes, we were given paperwork when we first received the summons. It said we'd be here through the 23rd. This morning, the judge, in preparing us to come here, said we might be here for 3 weeks, or it might go even longer.
We anticipate that we are going to finish by the end of next week. So that's more consistent with the paperwork you got. I mean, we always try to be cautious and say, look, this is what we anticipate. And the judge may have just been trying to tell you we never know for certain.
I understand.
But we anticipate that we'll finish by the end of next week. Do you have some issue with that you want to bring to our attention?
Yes, if it was to run over past the 23rd, I may have a religious issue.
Okay, all right. Okay, there is a religious holiday, is there, in there?
Yes.
I understand. Anybody have anything else they need to bring to our attention? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and take a break for lunch. A couple of things that I need to tell you. I want to remind you again that I am going to read this instruction to you again, and it is a lengthy instruction. You know, among other things, it is you can't communicate with anybody about your opinions and views, thoughts, or anything here about this case. You can't go on blogs, blah, 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 blah. Let me make sure. I'm going to jump down. I'm jumping down. I'm scrolling down and checking. Let me see. I really wanted to finish day one. So let me see. Anything he's repeating. I'm now on page 136, but I'm still scrolling down. And it's 152 pages for the audience for day one. Well, day one, part one. Okay, he's giving like repetitive instructions.
You want to go to page 140 maybe?
Okay.
When we start striking stuff?
Okay, that sounds good. Let me jump down there. I was highlighting so fast that I skipped over that. Okay, so we'll go to, I'll just remind you, I'm on page 140, line 5. I'll just remind you also that we're going to seat 12 jurors. The government has 6 strikes. The defendant has 10 strikes. So our initial pool of people is 28. And then we're going to seat 3 alternates. Each side will have 1 strike with regard to the alternate. So the alternate pool is 5. So it is the first 33 that are left after strikes for cause. Let me know, okay, on behalf of the government, any requests for strike for cause?
Yes, Your Honor. We request to strike juror number 22, Mr. Jones.
And he indicated that he couldn't serve as juror because of his religious beliefs. Any objection to strike panel member number 22?
No objection, Judge.
Panel member number 22 will be stricken for cause. Any other requests for strike for cause?
Yes, Your Honor. Based on the record I made earlier, jurors number 27 and 48 with regards to the sleeping.
Any objection to striking the panel members number 27? It's Miss McLeod, and you have indicated earlier that you have seen her sleeping?
No objection, Judge.
Okay, so panel number 27 will be stricken for cause. With regard to 48, let's wait and see if we get that far.
Right. And then just for the record, I don't know if we did juror number 30 on the record, Mr. Thesson.
Mr. Thesson, I had mentioned that he had indicated his father had been hospitalized and took a turn for the worse. and he couldn't serve. Any objections?
No objection, Your Honor.
Any other requests?
No, Your Honor.
Did we put in number 29?
Sure, yes, no objection.
So I'm sorry.
No objection to 29.
So panel member number 29 will be stricken for cause by agreement. Any other requests to strike for cause on behalf of the defendant?
Yes, Judge. Excuse me. Number 3, the second juror, based upon her role with the St. Louis City Police, her familiarity with the detective.
You are talking about Mrs. Seckliging, correct?
Number 3, she works for the St. Louis County government. She indicates she is familiar with police officers. She is familiar with the detective, who is the case agent.
We object, Your Honor. I don't think anything she stated would be eligible for cause.
What I understand her statement to be, and she worked for the St. Louis City Police for whatever that, she is a system analyst, and so she may have seen reports come across her desk. She has never interacted with the detective, Detective Rudolph. She said that she had seen his name, but has never interacted with him. She said that she could be fair and impartial and set all of that aside. So, if there is something else you want to tell me?
My notes. My recollection is that she said she heard of him, not simply through paperwork. In light of her position that there is some familiarity with him, we ask that she be struck for the cause.
Anything else you want to tell me?
No, Your Honor.
My notes are that, again, she saw his name. She is a system analyst. She really has no direct contact with the police officers. Certainly wouldn't with Detective Rudolph. I asked her a few times if she could be fair, and she said she could. There was simply nothing in what she said that forms a basis to strike her for cause. So the request to strike her for cause will be overruled.
Judge, we move to strike for cause jury number 4, Ms. Drummer. When I questioned her, she had a very, very negative reaction to Mr. Norman and indicated she had formed an impression based on her viewing of the show. For those reasons, we ask she be struck for cause.
So, y'all, I didn't know this part until just this moment. If I'm not mistaken, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the woman who said, when he said, "What do you remember about Tim Norman on the show?" His attitude. She out of there. He was like, put double stars by her name. Do not let her slip through. His attitude. So Judge Ross says, any objection to strike panel member number 4 for cause?
I would say that we're going to strike Miss Drummer for cause. We would also have to strike number 51, who had a positive reaction to the show as well.
We certainly have no problem with that, Judge.
So let me go back to the government. So you have no objection to striking panel number 4 for cause, okay?
No, Your Honor.
She will be stricken for cause by agreement. Any other requests to strike for cause?
Yes, Your Honor. We move to strike number 55, Jamie Robinson.
You know, if we get to that number, I appreciate what you are saying. I don't think we're going to get close to that. So
I agree.
Okay. Anybody else then on behalf of the defendant?
No, Judge.
Okay. So panel member number 4 is stricken for cause. Panel member number 22 is stricken for cause. Panel number 27, 29, 30 are all stricken for cause. So that's 5 strikes out of the first group. So of those left, it would leave us only 33 that you will have. The government will have 6 strikes. Defense will have 10 strikes, 34, 35, 36, 37, and 38. Each side will have 1 strike, which will leave us with 3 alternates. Is that the government's understanding as well?
It is, Your Honor.
And counsel, that is your understanding as well?
Yes, it is, Judge.
Okay, so Miss Danis and Miss Carroll, when you have your strikes, if you will give them to defense counsel and to the clerk, and when you have your strikes, Mr. Leonard, Miss Rodriguez, give them to the assistant U.S. attorneys and the clerk, and then we will make a record. Do you want Mr. Norman to stay here in the courtroom with you?
We would, Judge. Yes.
Okay, Miss Danis, Miss Carroll, I don't know if you want to go outside and use the conference room to go over the list.
I don't think we need to, Judge.
Okay, so for those of you who haven't been here for the long haul, all the way since last year when we was doing the recaps, outside of the court doors, there's 2 additional rooms in the off the hallway, and they're just basically small conference rooms, 1 on each side of the doorway. And so that's where Judge Ross was asking the attorneys for the government if they wanted to go in one of those conference rooms for privacy. Okay. Are you all right with counsel here in the courtroom?
Well,
I mean, you are going to be able to talk to Mr. Norman right there.
I think we can do that. Yeah.
Okay, all right. We will take a short break and let you go through all of that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so we are at the place now. I'm doing commentary. We're at the place now. They take a break, and then when they return, they basically make the note who are the last jurors and then move into the opening statements. So what we'll do is when we resume on our next show, we will wrap up this and then move into the next portion with the opening statements and all of that. I'm gonna see if we have any comments. First of all, thank you to our wonderful Veeple acting cast. Please give them hand clap emojis all in the chat. Show your great appreciation for them. And then I'm gonna read some comments, and then we're gonna go ahead and check out for the evening. Let's see. Oh Lord, it's so small over here. Hold on. I've been spoiled by these large words I have here for the transcripts. This chatting got small. Okay, there we go. Now I can read it. Andre was such a joy and light. Makes me happy and sad to see his pics. We got enjoying these jurors. They are hilarious. You can't make it up. Right. Yes, for sure. More compliments on the voices. Thank you so much. Love and always. These voices are everything. That's a great compliment to our acting cast. Dang, they asked a lot of questions about this show. So Tim heard this also. Yes, Tim was actually sitting there at his counsel table during this entire process. Yes. And from what I heard, giving mean mugging some of the jurors. And then I say that because I couldn't always see his face because of people sitting in front of me. So sometimes it would block my view. Policy, that juror forgot where they were. I don't know which juror we were talking about at that point. Your Honor, I've seen every season. I don't like that. Right, the one who was saying his attitude. Your Honor, I'm a huge fan, but not at all. Right. Some of them saying like, oh, I watched the show. And then it's like, no, I only watched the commercials. I only watched the previews. What? You wouldn't even say you watched. You know how many shows I see previews of? I wouldn't ever tell you I watch them just because I know they exist. There's a huge difference in watching previews of a show and watching the show. Your Honor, Tim is the one with the hips, because if he did it right. Okay, I'm trying to get to the more commentary. Now Vell, that man's voice was nervous. I just made up that nervous guy's voice because I didn't have any more voices in my head. I didn't practice. I just made it up on the fly. But no, nobody sounded like that. You didn't observe his wide hips. Thank you so much. I gotta say, Vell, this is creative. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Southern Belle. So that's all our star comments. I thank all of you who have joined us. Thank you to the moderators on our back end and front end. I hope I ain't missing nobody, but I know we got Precious G, we got Alice Blessed Child of God, Trey Keisha, Kim Yaka, and anybody I may have been missing on the front end. I greatly appreciate all of you as always. And what I'm going to do is send us out with a tribute to Andre Montgomery. Thank you so much to my panelists. Do you have any parting words to say to the audience? Oh, and we'll be back on Friday. Remember, Friday, 7 Central, 7:15 Central, 8:15 Eastern. We will be back here with Day 1, Part C. Anything from our panelists as we say goodbye?
You guys have been great. You've been a great audience. We see you guys on Friday. I'm about to go back and enjoy my vacation, guys.
That's right. Enjoy that your mango daiquiri.
Thank you, Vell. Thank you for having us, letting us read.
I appreciate you volunteering and doing such a great job.
You're so awesome, Vell. I haven't met you ever in person, but I think you just so great, and you know you did such an honor to the young man who passed. It was so sad. The more you read this stuff, the more sad you become about how Tim just messed up so many people's lives. It's just sad. Yeah,
totally agree, and that's why we've dedicated, and I did the tribute, and we're working on the siblings tribute, all for those reasons. All right, so I'm gonna say goodbye. And Robert, last words.
I enjoyed the participation, and thank you for allowing me to participate in such a great moment. It's been wonderful. I now know more about the young man's life, and I have a greater appreciation of the jury system.
Absolutely. I would totally agree with that as well. Especially being there live and in person, I learned so much about the justice system. So I totally agree. So thank all of you, and I will see you on Friday.
All right.
So have a good night. All right. Dropping y'all down. All right. And to our Veeple, I'm going to send you out with our tribute trailer for the Andre Montgomery tribute with his interview with his mom, Michelle Griggs. And until next time, make sure to take care and be blessed.
Gray came back the last time from being in St. Louis. He wasn't living with Robbie at the time. He came back and he said, Mom, he said, if anything ever happened to me, just know that Tim did it. What are you talking about? He said, well, just know Tim don't never do his own dirty work. But I got that fatal call from her about Dre, and I didn't want to answer the phone. I just didn't want to answer the phone. And then she hung up and she called right back. And then that's when she was like, well, the detectives was here. And already my heart is already slowing down, and to the point where they want her to go down to the morgue to identify that was him. That was it. It was like, it was so surreal. Everything was just rolling around. I'm just like, not my son. You know, not my son. Not my son.